Hi there, my friend. Welcome to tonight's sleep story. My name is Jack, and I'm truly honored to be the voice keeping you company as you drift off to sleep. So get comfortable, let your body relax, and just allow my words to guide you into a calm, peaceful night of rest. It was Christmas night in a small town somewhere in the Midwest. The streets were quiet, too quiet for a holiday night. Snow covered the sidewalks like a white blanket. Street lights glowed soft yellow. Houses stood still, windows dark, families already asleep. At the edge of town, there was a lonely gas station, one light flickering, one car parked, engine cold. Inside that car sat a man named Ethan Walker, early 30s, tired eyes, hands resting on the steering wheel. Ethan wasn't there for gas. He was there because he didn't want to go home yet. Christmas had a way of bringing memories back. Memories people try to forget. 10 years ago on a night, just like this, someone disappeared in this town. No body, no answers. And tonight, Ethan had a feeling that story wasn't over. A slow wind moved the snow across the road. The gas station bell rang softly as the door opened. An old man stepped out, the cashier. He looked at Ethan's car for a long moment, too long. Then he turned the sign on the door. Closed. Ethan felt it in his chest. That quiet pressure. The kind you feel before something goes wrong. His phone vibrated. One message. No name. Just 6 words. You were there that night. Ethan didn't breathe. Snow kept falling. Christmas night stayed silent, and somewhere in the darkness, someone was awake, watching. Ethan kept sitting in the car. The message stayed on his screen, cold light glowing against his face. You were there that night. His fingers trembled slightly, not from the cold, from memory. He looked around the empty road. Snow drifting slow. No other cars. No footsteps. The gas station lights shut off one by one. The old cashier was gone, like he had never been there. Ethan finally started the engine. The sound felt too loud in the silence. He pulled onto the road and drove toward town. Christmas decorations passed by, plastic reindeer, blinking lights, happy things that felt wrong tonight. 10 years ago, this town had smiled the same way. Lights everywhere, music in the air. That was the night Lily Moore vanished. She was 19, worked at a diner, big dreams. Small town. Ethan had known her. Not well, but well enough. His phone vibrated again. Another message. Same number. Still no name. You remember the bridge. Ethan's breath caught. The bridge. He hadn't thought about it in years. A narrow road over frozen water. No cameras back then. No witnesses. His car slowed without him realizing it. The turn was coming up ahead. Snow-covered sign. Barely visible. Bridge road. Ethan whispered to himself. No, not tonight. But his hands turned the wheel anyway. The bridge appeared through the snow. Old metal rails, dark water below. He stopped halfway across. Engine running. headlights cutting through falling snow. The phone rang. Not a message this time. A call. Unknown number. Ethan stared at it, heart pounding slow and heavy. Then he answered. Breathing came through the line first. Calm, patient, then a voice. Low, almost gentle. Merry Christmas, Ethan. Ethan closed his eyes because he knew that voice and because he knew this night was not going to let him sleep. The voice on the phone stayed calm. Too calm for this hour. Ethan opened his eyes. Snow kept falling. Soft. Endless. You shouldn't have come back, the voice said. Ethan swallowed. I left this town 10 years ago, he replied. I paid for what I did. A quiet laugh came through the speaker. No, the voice said. You survived it. That's not the same thing. The call ended. Dead air. Ethan stared at the frozen river below the bridge. Memories pressed in slow. A scream. Headlights. Then silence. He started the car again and drove. Past the bridge. Past the truth he had buried. Back in town the church bells rang. Midnight mass beginning. Families walking inside. Warm lights. Safe smiles. Ethan parked near the old diner, the place Lily used to work. Still open. Still smelling like coffee and grease. Inside, only one table was occupied. A man in a dark coat. Back turned, Ethan ordered coffee. Hands shaking now. The man spoke without turning around. She always worked a late shift. Ethan froze. She trusted you, the man continued. She trusted everyone. Slowly the man turned. Older, thinner, eyes full of something sharp. My name is Daniel, he said. Lily was my sister. Outside the snow kept falling, soft enough to hide footprints, heavy enough to bury secrets. And tonight, Daniel wasn't done digging. Ethan didn't move. The coffee grew cold between his hands. Daniel watched him closely. No anger yet, just patience. You ran that night, Daniel said softly. She didn't. Ethan's breath felt heavy. I didn't mean for it to happen, he whispered. Daniel nodded slowly. That's what everyone says. The diner door creaked open. Cold air rushed in. Then silence again. Daniel stood up, left some cash on the table. Walk with me, he said. Outside the street was empty. Snow swallowed every sound. They walked toward the river. The same path. The same darkness. You remember the bridge, Daniel said. She called me from there. Ethan stopped, heart pounding. She said you were arguing. Daniel continued. She said you were scared.
बाथरूम का नल बंद था, इसलिए माँ रसोई में जाती है। वहाँ वो देखती है कि किचन का नल खुला हुआ है। वो उसे बंद करती है, लेकिन कुछ ही सेकंड बाद नल अपने आप फिर खुल जाता है। वो घबरा जाती है, उसे समझ नहीं आता ये कैसे हो रहा है। तभी स्विमिंग पूल की तरफ से अजीब सी आवाज आती है। माँ दौड़कर बाहर जाती है और देखती है कि पूल का पानी तेजी से बाहर बह रहा है।
Ethan swallowed hard. The river whispered below them. That night wasn't an accident, he said. It started as a fight. Daniel didn't interrupt. He just listened. She wanted to leave. Ethan continued. She said the city was changing her. She said I was holding her back. Ethan's hand shook. I grabbed her arm. Daniel closed his eyes. Just for a moment. She pulled away. Ethan said. She stepped back. And then she slipped. Silence spread between them. I heard the splash, Ethan whispered. I froze. I told myself someone else would help. Daniel's voice was calm. Too calm. You watched her fall. Ethan nodded. Tears ran freely now. I ran, he said. I left her screaming my name. The wind grew sharper. Snow hit their faces. Daniel turned toward the river. She trusted you, he said. Another pause. I didn't come here for revenge, Daniel continued. I came to let you carry it. Ethan looked up, confused. You've been free all these years, Daniel said, but the river remembers. Daniel stepped back, giving Ethan space. Go to the police, he said, or live with this forever. Daniel walked away, footsteps fading into snow. Ethan stood alone by the river. Sirens echoed somewhere far away. The night waited. Ethan stayed there. Long after Daniel disappeared into the snow, the river kept moving, like nothing had ever happened. He took out his phone, stared at the screen, put it back. Sirens grew closer, then faded again. Memories flooded in. Her laugh, her voice, the way she trusted him without question. Ethan fell to his knees. The cold didn't matter anymore. He whispered her name, again and again. By morning, the town woke up quietly. Snow covered the footprints, but not the truth. Ethan walked into the police station, his shoulders heavy, his eyes empty. He told them everything, the argument, the river, the lie he lived for years. An officer listened without interrupting, just writing. When it was over, handcuffs clicked softly. Ethan didn't resist. Outside the window, the river reflected pale winter light. For the first time, it felt still. The interrogation room was quiet. Too quiet. Ethan sat alone, hands cuffed, eyes fixed on the table. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt broken. A detective entered, older, calm. He slid a file across the table. Photos inside. The river, the bridge. Her scarf pulled from the water years ago. Ethan didn't look away. The detective spoke softly. Truth has weight. You've been carrying it a long time. Ethan finally nodded. He talked about fear, about jealousy, about one moment that ruined everything. No excuses, no anger left. When he finished, the detective closed the file. Outside the station, snow continued to fall. News spread slowly. A cold case reopened. A town forced to remember. Some were angry. Some were silent. Some just shook their heads. That night, Ethan lay on a narrow bed, concrete walls, cold light for the first time in years. He slept. Morning arrived without warmth. Gray light slipped through the small window. Ethan woke slowly. No panic, no dreams. In another part of town, the river moved quietly. Police tape fluttered in the cold air. Divers searched again. Careful, patient, they found more than expected. A rusted locket, a cracked phone, pieces of a night no one wanted to remember. The detective watched from the shore, hands in his coat pockets, jaw tight, back at the station. A reporter waited. Then two, then many. Questions filled the hallway. How long? Why now? The detective gave no answers. That evening, Ethan was moved, chains soft against the floor. As the door closed behind him, he looked back once, not for freedom, but for peace. Outside, snow covered the town. Slowly, quietly, night returned again. The town breathed slower. Ethan sat alone. Concrete walls, dim light across the city. A woman stared at an old photograph, edges worn, faces frozen in time. She whispered a name, one that never came back. At the station, the detective read files, page after page. Patterns formed quietly, too quiet. Outside, a train passed, low horn, long echo. Somewhere nearby, a door creaked open, footsteps paused. A choice was made. Back in the cell, Ethan closed his eyes, not to sleep, but to remember. And memory was far more dangerous than dreams. The memory came slowly, like cold water rising. Ethan saw the street again, wet asphalt, blinking traffic light, a scream that never reached help. Back in the present, his hands trembled, breathing shallow. At the same time, the detective drove alone, radio silent. He stopped near the old bridge, engine running, lights off. This was where it began. Down below, the river moved the same way, indifferent. At the station, a new call came in, low voice, urgent. They found something else. A witness, someone who had stayed silent until now, and whatever they were about to say was going to change everything. The witness waited in a small room, hands folded, eyes fixed on the floor. The detective sat across from him. No rush, no pressure. Silence did the work. Finally, the man spoke, voice low, unsteady. He said he saw Ethan that night. Not angry, not violent, confused, lost. He said someone else was there, a shadow near the bridge, watching. At the cell, Ethan felt it, a shift, something moving, something breaking open. The detective closed his notebook, stood up slowly. Outside, wind pushed against the building. The past wasn't buried. It was waking up. The detective stepped into the hallway. Lights hummed softly. He paused. Read the witness statement again. Another presence. Another shadow. Back in the cell. Ethan sat upright, eyes open. A guard walked past, keys rattling. Ethan spoke quietly, not asking for release, asking for truth. Across town, the woman with the photograph stood outside her house. Door open, lights on. She had made a call, one she should have made years ago. At the station, phones began ringing, one after another. Names surfaced, connections tightened. The case was no longer simple. That night, the river flowed heavier, as if carrying secrets forward. And somewhere between guilt and innocence, the real story was finally coming into view. Rain started before dawn. Soft, endless, the city felt heavier, like it was holding its breath. At the station, the detective stared at the board. Photos, strings, names crossing each other. One name stood out, a name never questioned before. In the cell, Ethan lay back, eyes on the ceiling. For the first time, he wasn't afraid. Across town, a car idled near the river, headlights off. Someone was watching, someone who had waited too long. The rain washed the streets, but not the truth. Morning was coming, and with it, everything was about to break open. Morning arrived sharp and cold. Rain stopped suddenly. The detective stood by the river again, coffee untouched, eyes focused. Footprints were still there, faint but real. At the station, an old file was reopened, dust shaken loose. A report missed years ago. A statement never followed. In his cell, Ethan was called out. Chains light. This time, questions were different. Not what happened, but who was really there. Across town, the woman tore the photograph in half. Relief mixed with fear. She knew the truth would finally surface. Outside, church bells rang softly, not for peace, but for confession. The interrogation room felt smaller, airtight, clock ticking loud. Ethan sat across the table, hands steady now. The detective spoke carefully. Names first, then dates. Ethan listened, then nodded. He said there was someone else, someone who pushed, someone who ran. Across town, police cars lined the street. Lights off, a door opened slowly. An older man stepped out, face pale, back at the station. The detective received the call. He closed his eyes. They had him. In the cell, Ethan exhaled. Not relief, acceptance. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds. Cold light. The truth was no longer hiding. The arrest happened quietly. No shouting, no running. The older man sat in the back of the car, hands shaking, eyes empty. At the station, doors closed, locks turned. The detective watched from the hallway. This face matched the shadow. In the interview room, the man broke fast. Too fast. He talked about that night, about fear, about anger. He said Ethan was never meant to fall. In the cell, Ethan felt the weight lift. Not freedom. Truth. Outside, the river kept moving, same as always, but the town felt different, lighter. Some stories don't end with justice, they end with understanding. And this one was finally reaching its final breath. The confession spread quietly. No headlines yet, no cheers. Paperwork filled the desks, forms stamped, files closed. Ethan was brought out again. No chains this time. The detective stood nearby, watching, waiting, outside the station. The woman with the photograph waited, eyes tired. When she saw Ethan, she didn't speak. She only nodded. That was enough. Across town, the river flowed under clear sky. Cold, honest, Ethan stepped forward, breathing deep. He wasn't free of the past, but he wasn't trapped by it anymore. Somewhere behind him, a door closed for the last time, and ahead, a quiet road waited. The road ahead was empty. Morning light stretched long shadows. Ethan walked slowly. No destination, just movement. Behind him, the station faded into routine. Phones rang. Coffee brewed. The detective watched from the steps. Hands in pockets. Case finished, but not forgotten. Across town, the older man sat alone, walls closing in. His words were written now, permanent. At the river, the water moved calmly, as if nothing had happened. But beneath the surface, everything had changed. Ethan stopped at the bridge, looked down, then up. He turned away. Some endings don't need noise. They just need truth. And this one